There's a lot of the guys there that are
push the button on things. Anyway, so when you add the fellow humans, make sure they're high quality people. We don't need the riffraff coming in here. So if they're the kind of people that are going to be sharing, click here to win $10,000 watching Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch do some live stream shit. No, don't invite those guys. But if they're vets and they love America and they love veterans, to include the Marines that are on here this evening, so the bar's low.
Aww.
Hoorah, right? Bring them on in. So another update as well. We have been officially recognized in GuideStar. The database is updated. So we have an Amazon Smile account now. So if you guys want to change your Amazon purchases in a little contribution gets cut to Battle Buddies. It helps pay for a lot of the resources that we got in the background, some of these fancy tools. So it would help out. I think
Heck yeah.
What did Renee, I saw on her Facebook page, she must be an Amazonaholic, because I thought it was like $360 last year, or maybe even last quarter. It was something insane like that. But I know me, it was like $14 to Warrior Hockey last quarter.
For those of you that aren't familiar with the Amazon Smile, that's not any money out of your pocket. That's just a percentage of what you purchase on Amazon going to your selected charity.
Yeah, so it's 0.5%, if I'm not mistaken, on qualified purchases. Anyway, we are going to discuss, after you hit the invite button, we're just going to have a really awkward pause here on the invites. Click the invite button. Do it. You can do it. So we got a couple extra people here this evening. We got Travis on video. We got RJ, who's new to the crew. We'll let him introduce himself. We'll keep the Color Crayon chat to a minimum so we don't have to listen to a bunch of hoorah shit for 20 minutes and not get anything done. But we're going to discuss the interview. And we're going to focus more this evening on the white collar side of things. We've covered blue collar a lot. Anybody that's been on the page for a while probably is well aware of that. We have a lot of videos cataloged in the announcements section. There's probably 200 videos in there, and I'll bet you 2/3 of them are focused on blue collar trades types of jobs. And the rest tend to be IT and professional type of stuff.
So I have to say that some of what we're going to talk about is pretty universal. Doesn't matter what color of collar we're talking about. So don't you guys that work with your hands for a living leave us so quickly. So
exactly. So it's the same core level of effort, and the different areas might be a little bit different. There might not be a prospectus for a plumbing shop down the street, but doing this research is still a big thing that we're going to discuss. So anyways, RJ, do you mind introducing yourselves to everybody? Got a bunch of Minnesotans on here this evening.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is RJ Bell. I've lived in Minnesota my entire life. Served in the Minnesota Army National Guard for just about 10 years. I have a daughter who's 12, and right now I have an online business where I do like fitness, nutrition, and mindset coaching for people. And basically a lot of my background recently has been focused around helping people with, developing stronger motivational strategies when it comes to like setting goals, reaching their dreams and stuff like that, and leaving their standard 9-to-5 jobs and just helping them, get to where they want to be in life. Overcoming limiting beliefs. These are a lot of beliefs that get like conditioned in our nervous system, typically from when we're really young. And then as we start to get older through life, they just grow deeper and deeper into the nervous system. And that's like where a lot of the fear of failure, fear of success can sometimes come from, is those limiting beliefs that we have. So how to break through those and get ahead in life.
Feel free to put any questions in here as we go too, guys. Zach, oh, wait. Sorry. We're going to hit Travis since he's our VIP in here this evening, because we don't always have him on video. So now you guys can put a face to the voice.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. I'm Travis. For those of you who don't know me, I worked for 3M for my day job, but I'm also a civil affairs officer in the Marine Corps Reserve. I did 6.5 years active duty as a comm officer, or for you Army cats out there, signals. Um, I did that and I transitioned out. And then pretty much right after getting out, I started getting involved with Battle Buddies. It made a huge difference for me for networking. I mean, some of the things I shared in one of my stories, I actually learned from Battle Buddies, just about being able to culturally blend in with the company you're seeking to interview with, for example. Yeah, so that's just kind of my elevator speech on what I've done. But if you ever have any questions, please feel free to contact me. I'm just under Travis Dolan on LinkedIn. Yeah, that's what I got.
So, and guys, last week we put Travis's contact info. So if you've got questions about 3M, he's happy to connect you to the appropriate people over there. He's done it a lot of times. So, Mr. Johnson.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Good to meet you guys, RJ and Travis. Like RJ was saying, the self-care stuff is huge, I think, right now. I started reading Can't Hurt Me. I needed some self-care, and I'm on chapter 2. I don't read, but I got the audio version, and when I walk the dog in between this stuff and whatever, I'm taking the dog for long walks to try to get some movement going, get back into working out again. And I'm listening to this at the same time, killing 3 birds with 1 stone. So it's been great. I'm getting into this one with, if you guys are getting into career stuff, mission transition, post-military career stuff, highly recommend it. Just trying to do that. But for myself, Zach Johnson, Marine Corps veteran, Iraq, Afghan vet, combat wounded. I work for the Minnesota Assistance Council for Veterans. We're a not-for-profit here in Minnesota that helps end veteran homelessness. I'm an employment specialist over there. You guys can find me on LinkedIn if you need to. Happy to help out with any job-seeking things. Resume writing, we got great resume writing workshops. Happy to help out where I can. Battle Buddies, love helping out Chuck and helping promote what they're doing here. So thanks for having me, guys.
And we will put
Fire,
everybody's LinkedIn up there because there's like 5 million Zach Johnsons in Minnesota. That's a very common last name here.
Yeah.
Pete, quick intro on yourself.
Your old pal, Pete Lavelle, and resume resource for the group. 23 years of Air Force behind me. At 2.5 years contracting in Iraq. I was one of those guys you love to hate because I was doing what a lot of you do and getting paid better and getting kicked out for R&R a lot more often. But hey, somebody has to do it. So that's me.
Cool. All right, let's jump right on into this white collar / blue collar interview type of thing. How to prep for it. So the resumes, that's an art, that's a craft, that's something that everything is subjective in there. There's no one way to write it the right way. There's a lot of ways to do it shitty. I see them every day, and they can be very, very difficult. So in our process within Battle Buddies, when you get the kind of administrative side of things done, you know what you want to be when you grow up, and you get your resume or 6 resumes squared away so you can take those things to market and market yourself. All of a sudden you get to the point after you've done some really good networking where you actually have to convert to a paycheck, and that's where the interview comes in. So unlike the military, if you're a fresh transition person, something new can be kind of scary. So I remember when I went to basic training in 1990, the one thing that I feared going in there was the gas chamber, because I heard that, you got 12 pounds of snot that's going to be coming out of your mouth. You can't see, it's this horrendous thing, right? I wasn't afraid of anything else. It was just, I heard about this horrific thing. And I went through and it was no big deal. And there's plenty of other challenges after that. This resume, or this interview is one of those things that when you're used to getting your orders handed to you of here's what you're going to do next, Mr. Military, or I almost gender specified there, right? Mr., Mrs., Ms., Z, Z, Zin, whatever, here's your orders. You're going to go do this thing. Okay. Now you're going into the competitive market where it's a completely different approach that's needed for your next job. You're competing. So this is where you as a veteran should be able to differentiate yourself from all other candidates that are in the pool. It's not because you're a vet, because you've got that asterisk next to your name, or you've got that at the bottom that you're in a campaign or something like that. It's because of the things that are in your core that make you different. So those things that you did as a young person that are typically very challenging are things that most humans will never have to go through in the civilian world. So you've got different infrastructure inside of you. Your neurology is actually quite a bit different than the average person on the street. So, you know what? I think I'm starting to kind of tread into RJ's world here on how this mindset works of going into the interview. So this is just as much psychological as it is doing the research. So since we've never gone into the mindset of things on the interview, I'd like to kind of let RJ do his tap dance for a few minutes and talk about the things that are important when it comes to this kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So when it comes to the big thing that I always coach on when it comes to like mindset is some of the real quick, simple things that you don't have to literally learn or know anything about is how you present yourself and how you show up, which from day one of, basic training, they teach you how to look, act, and speak like a soldier, nice tall posture, shoulders back, make eye contact, but don't do it in a way where, you're going to creep them out because you never break contact. That'd be bad. But mindset stuff, all it essentially is if you're going into a interview and you're feeling like really nervous, 5 minutes before you're actually about to step in there, something that I talk about is finding a resource state. So if you want to have confidence or courage, what we do is you close your eyes and you basically think back to a moment in your life where you had just level 10 courage or confidence, and you replay that exact same thing in your mind, like you're living it. So like Chuck, like if you were at the gas chamber, like how you were feeling then, like after the fact of like feeling like motivated and like, wow, that was nothing. Like that was a huge obstacle that you overcame. So if you go to the past to grab some type of resource, and most resources are some type of like emotion inside of us, which for guys, I know that gets a little weird, but we go into the past, we grab whatever resource, state, emotion we want in the present state. And then all we do is we relive it. You pull it forward into the future. And then literally that's going to be, it's kind of like enough fumes to get you through whatever event that you're currently needing it for. So that's what I would highly suggest. If you're looking for confidence, look to the past, find level 10 confidence where you were at your best, and then pull that forward.
So one of the things that we can get to down the road is subconscious programming. I went through this program when I worked for Principal Financial back in 2000 that talks about how to remove certain things from even your vernacular. So removing the NTs, the negative thoughts, the can't, won't, shouldn't, those types of things, and retooling the way that you speak into positive outcomes is going to be great. So if you sit there and you focus on, I hope I don't fuck up this interview versus I'm going to crush this interview, are two completely different outcomes. So at the subconscious level, you're telling yourself and you're prepping yourself to succeed. So anybody that's played sports, like if you're a golfer, if you focus on the water or the pond, the hazard, the sand trap or whatever, 90% of the time, guess what where your ball's going. So if you're sitting there thinking, I'm not going to hit the sand, that you're hooking or slicing that shit straight into the middle of the beach. So when you go into these interviews, you have to think about how great you are, how perfect you are for this type of role. You have to be convinced ahead of time that you've already won this interview before you even set foot in the door. So, you know, if you guys are in a boxing, you'll see the same type of thing. That fight's over before the first punch is thrown, unless somebody gets lucky. I mean, it's just the way it is. The interview is no different. I talked to, I think, probably 5 or 6 people today, and a couple of them were pretty good. One was really good, and a couple of them were really, really bad. So, you know, if I think about how is that person going to perform within that organization, who am I comfortable submitting in front of these people? It's going to be that person that walks in and they're like, yeah, you know what, I can do this job. Here's why I'm great. You know, they make it hard for me to say no. So this goes into the prep. So Pete, prep stuff, as far as the functional pieces of, you know, we get a lot of guys, well, I need the interview questions that are common for my job of doing this. Where can people find those types of resources here?
Well, I'm glad you asked. We have a number of resources available to you at this very moment on our Battle Buddies USA Facebook page.
Whoa.
Just go to the top. There's a tab that says files, and you will find a cornucopia of wonderful, helpful, and very relevant knowledge.
That sounds like a treasure trove.
Yeah. But I'm glad you guys talk a little bit about the mental aspects of this before you would. If I'm here, as I'm hearing you talking, I'm thinking, you know, this is great. Yeah. But the but part is that if that's all you have is this belief, then maybe we need to step back and talk a little bit about some foundational skills and practice even. Okay. So that being nervous doesn't even come up, or having that anxiety doesn't really come up, because at the end of the day, the reason you're going to any interview is to see if you can work for them, not if they will ask you. You want to know if that job's right for you, and you want to figure out the best way you're going to be able to help them achieve their goals and earn a paycheck in the process. So it's not really about 100% them throwing the sword over your shoulders and blessing you with membership in this really great royal corporation. No, it really is more about, do I want to work here? Can I be useful here? That kind of thing. So accessing those files, there's one in there called the 64 toughest interview questions. And I didn't develop that, but as a certified interview coach, I can tell you that is a really, when you talk about trove of valuable knowledge, that's going to at least decrease your anxiety by a factor of 10 when you read some of these questions and learn how to tackle them. Because these are the kind of questions that you don't think you can prepare for. Those behavioral interview type questions. They tell me about a time when type of questions. So they exist in various forms, various iterations of the same question. But when it comes down to it, is you've got to be prepared to answer those questions in a way that makes an impact on them. Okay. I'm kind of drilling a little bit deeper as I go along. How do you make that impact? Is you want to do some strategizing or actually tactics during your interview and get some information from them as soon as possible in that interview process. Let's just call it what it is, a conversation. So here's the first question you might get. Tell me about yourself. That could be a trap for you, because what they do want to know and what they don't want to know are two different things. And we tend to answer exactly and give them the information that they don't want and leave out the information that they're actually fishing for. But if you—
So what's a typical no-no?
The no-no is to talk about yourself in your personal light. I'm a dad. I have 3 kids. I like to hunt. I did this in my past. I did that in my past. You need to come in ready to answer that question in the way that they want to hear it without sounding, robotic. But here's what I really, and all that dialogue is, what I'm trying to get down to is this, is to uncover their needs, not the needs of of the company in general, or even that position, but get to that person's inside that person's head by saying something like this. I'm going to read from the sheet that you can get, or the toughest interview questions file that you can get. You would ask this when they say, tell me about yourself, break off and go, and give them a little timeout and go, I have a number of accomplishments I'd like to tell you about, but what I want to make the best use of our time together and talk directly to your needs. Wow. They're going to go, wow, that's cool. So to help me do that, could you tell me more about the most important priorities of this position? All I know is what I read in the job posting or heard from the recruiter, and then get ready to jot down a few notes. Then once they tell you, you can dive into okay, so we're about myself. The best answer, and I'm going to read from the script again, is to start with the present and tell why you are qualified for the position. Remember that the key to all successful interviewing is to match your qualifications to what the interviewer is looking for. In other words, you must sell what the buyer is buying. This is the single most important strategy in job hunting. So before you answer that question, uncover their needs, and then go answer the question, tell me about yourself, in a manner that addresses what they're looking for. I hope that all makes sense. If not, you can rewatch the video until.
And they can get that resource that's written where, Pete?
Battle Buddies USA Facebook page. Jump to the files tab.
Yeah, we'll put the link up. No problem. So
that document exists out on the internet all by itself in a number of forms, but I went through and I spruced it up. So, you might as well use a nice looking copy. So
think about this, that trap that's set for you at the front end is like you walking into a hardware store and you tell the guy at Home Depot, geez, I use a gender specific thing again. You talk to the human at Home Depot, hey, sell me some shit, right? Well, we've got plungers over here, we've got hammers over here, and we've got cardboard in the back. And you tell them you don't need all three of those, any of those things, right? But if you walk in the door and they say, well, how can I help you today? And you're like, I need a plunger. Well, let me bring you right there, right? The problem got solved. So that's what Pete's essentially saying needs to happen on the front end is these job descriptions are written so horrendously, typically speaking, that as an interviewee, you may be walking into something that you're completely over or underqualified for, or don't have any interest in doing. So, win fast, lose fast. It goes very, very far in life, especially in this process here, because if you're not working and you've got 4 or 5 opportunities that are sitting there in your funnel, get rid of that shitty one immediately, unless you desperately need a paycheck. At least that's my opinion. So you can review these documents that Pete's talking about in the files section. We'll put the link up, but there's a lot of resources in there. We've got a lot of samples of interview questions, a bunch of resume samples in there. There's also some other stuff in there for like burn pits and VA loan stuff. So there's a lot of info in there that you can get to. All right, Pete. So we talked about looking at that job description, right? And getting a baseline understanding. So another thing that we talk about is discovery on the company, right? And the human in front of us. Let's hit the company first.
Yep. You definitely want to do your homework on the company. And it's so easy nowadays. You don't have to really leave your house. Just access what's going on LinkedIn. Follow their postings on Facebook. You not only get the high level stuff, but you get some of the more intimate kind of, what some of the workers are up to and what they're posting. For example, Travis, 3M. Every day, there's several different posts announcing a new product or a new initiative. So if you're following that company, and by the way, on LinkedIn, you just go to 3M's page and hit follow, and now you're getting everything from 3M. Or go to Medtronic, follow. Now you'll start seeing their posts in your feed. Excuse me. So check out what they're about. I mean, if you come to the place where it's like, you know what, I'm not so sure I can really hang with this company. It's kind of uptight. Good. You knew that before you hit the interview. And then you can either decide to go on the interview and use it as a practice field, or tell them, you know what, thanks. I'm going to save you guys both some time. Screw you. That kind of thing. But definitely do your homework. Find out what they're about. Find out what they made. Find out about their financials. What you store in your head is going to be like what filmmakers do. They film miles of film footage, but most of it ends up on the cutting room floor. You're not going to be able to utilize everything you learned. Learning itself isn't bad, but at least you'll be ready for anything. And sometimes you can insert what you know into part of the conversation as well.
So how about the oh, and by the way, so it's a pretty big difference between like checking out the little hardware store down the street versus Home Depot. Big difference between a small little IT shop and going and working for one of these big consulting companies. So if you're on the corporate side, they're publicly traded. I highly suggest a 10K, reading about that. It shows what initiatives are big that are coming up in the corporate culture within that corporation. Depending on what level you're at, if you're a little higher in the management scheme, you might be able to speak to how you can personally solve problems that the CEO is putting out as their initiatives for the next 12 months. So there's a lot of good information that's out there. Okay, Pete, stock in the human that you're interviewing with and possibly their boss. Some good strategies, some do's and don'ts on that.
Okay, there's this thing called mirroring. If you're sitting in an interview situation, whether it's online or not, get kind of study what they're doing. What are their gestures like? Do they smile when they talk? Do they look around? Are they really colorfully dressed? That tells you how reactive they are and something about their personality. I would say a colorfully dressed person is pretty visual. So nod when you speak. If they are kind of like deadpan, they need answers that are straightforward, sort of mathematical, analytical type answers. The person who's more animated probably looks or downloads information metaphorically. So you could use stories, or you could say it's sort of like this. Kind of match how they are, can become that chameleon, because it's all about likability. You want to make them, even if it's just for that moment, the moments of the interview, to really feel a connection and to like you. So if you're just going to think, oh, I'm just going to be myself, man, then fine. Don't try, blow it. But if you're doing something a little bit differently and better than your competitors, then it's worth your time. And you got to ask yourself, do you want to go through all this work? And we throw a lot of information out here in our forum about resumes, about interviewing, about networking, all to get a job. And yeah, if it's, a high paying job, if it's going to get you that new truck, or, that home in the neighborhood that you want and that school district that you want, then it's worth to be jumping through all these hoops to get that.
So on this mirroring thing, just to let you know, so when I'm interviewing people in different regions in the country, or even if it's EU, if they're in the sales practice or the IT practice, I actually kind of have my background going differently throughout the day. So if I'm going to be interviewing salespeople for high-end sales roles, I'll typically listen to like 90s rock, like, Kickstart My Heart and stuff like that, kind of my gym stuff. If I'm dealing with engineering guys, I'll usually have some sort of talk radio going on in the background between calls. So like my energy level is completely different. If I'm talking to the engineering guys, generally speaking, I'm sitting at my desk. If it's sales guys, I'm bouncing around in my house. If I've got Zoom on, if it's West Coast, I'm dressed like Travis. If it's Midwest, it's like this, maybe even a quarter zip. In the East Coast, depending if it's Northeast or Southeast, it's a little different as well. So you need to know who your audience is. LinkedIn will give you some decent indicators on that. If they've got a public profile on Facebook, if it's in the public sphere, you should do a little bit of research on the person that you're talking to. Travis, you were given a great example as we were going live. Do you want to kind of hit on that a little bit? Remember what we were talking about?
Yep, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, so the story I was telling is about a guy he interviews at a software company. His initial interview is with management type personnel. So he goes in, he has his button-up shirt, his tie on. The interview goes well, and they say, "Hey, do you want to go back and meet the developers?" And he says, "Yeah, what are those guys typically wearing?" People who've worked with software developers might know they do dress a bit more comfortably, typically like polo shirts, things like that. So before they walk back into where they kept the developers, he says, "Hold on a second." He takes off his tie and he, leaves it at the door. And then he just kind of basically, goes with like Chuck and Pete with that the top buttoned on their shirt. And he, goes in, meets all the guys, and he got hired. And what they told him after the interview is the reason they hired him over other guys is because he took off the tie, because he had the soft skills, if you will, the social intelligence to blend in and say, okay, these people like to dress a bit more comfortably. If some random guy with a tie walks in looking like management, I'm not going to fit in with them. And that's what he was trying to do. So that's what allowed him to succeed.
Nice. Okay, so we're at our time, even though we don't have our timekeeper here this evening.
That was so fast.
I know, flew by. It's one of the fastest sessions we've ever had. It was so fun.
I hope it was useful.
I'm guessing that when I log on to the Battle Buddy admin side, I'm going to have like probably, what do you think, 15,000 pending invites, Pete? Somewhere around there, maybe 20,000.
Be surprised.
There's little blue falcons on this
less than
page.
5 figures, yeah.
Right, exactly. So since you're the new guy, the FNG there, RJ, you're going to get the parting words for the evening. So like if you were to advise these guys from your perspective, one thing to, or kind of a best thing to be doing going into these interviews, and you were coaching them, what is it that you want to leave them thinking about here at the end of the show tonight?
Let's see. Well, thanks for the closing words as well. I think I would say that, going into an interview, I haven't done a formal interview for several years now, but I think of it as how can I create a win-win? Win for myself as well as for, the win for the company, the win for the person who's interviewing me. And, for a win for yourself, you have to know what you want going into it. Like, it can't just be like, I want the job. It has to be, think at least 2 or 3 steps ahead. Are there going to be positions within this job that you're going after that you can get promoted to, where you can shine and use maybe your military background of leadership in that interview and bring it out and let them know you're the guy for when that role may open up or whatever. A win for them. They want to see who you are on, I would imagine, multiple different levels. I've done interviews in the past when I used to work for a corporation, and I mean, just like Peter was saying, there's certain things you don't say. I've actually had people tell me that, like, they drink multiple beers every single night. Like, you don't say that in an interview. Like, maybe after you get hired and then say, hey, you want to go out for happy hour with the boys? Yeah, by the way, I do enjoy beer. That's a different time and place for that type of story. But know what you want, know your outcome, and let it be known what your outcome is, and most importantly, why. I think that's what I would say.
Cool. All right. I'm going to put a plug in for the Minnesota Warriors tonight. If you're in Minnesota and you have a disability rating and want to play hockey, send me a message. We'll get you on skates. We'll get you all the gear you need and everything. So, and I'll connect you to Mr. Tim Loney. That's all we got for this evening. Thanks for watching. We will see you next week, and we expect to see a whole bunch of invites on there of high quality humans. Have a good evening, everybody.
Take care.